So, Mrs. Radia, I wanted to ask you, what made you foray into healthcare?
I'm a Badri child, as I said. Um, Post my exit from the corporate world about a decade back, I went to Badrinath and there was a request from the head priest there said, why don't you do something here? यहाँ पे मैडम आप हॉस्पिटल खोल दीजिए, why don't you open a hospital? Not knowing much about healthcare, I did remember something my father told me, which was that if you ever want to do something, start with mobile medical units. So I promised him that when Badri would open in 2012, I'll come back and I will have mobile medical units to serve the pilgrims. 2012 was when we started a team of a strong 45 people, paramedics and doctors with 4 mobile medical units. I kept my promise. That opened me up to a whole range of diseases that we saw. People came from all walks of life, all economic stratas. And you realize one thing that was there, you didn't need any consultant to tell you this, you just knew it as you looked at them, that whether it was, whether they came from Madhya Pradesh or they came from Andhra or whether they came from Uttar Pradesh, what was lacking was good super specialized care in tier 2, tier 3. We have a large amount of secondary. I decided that's where it was and that's where I wanted to be.
And you mentioned an element of destiny. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Destiny, because you know, when you go to a place like Badrinath and a beautiful thought comes into your mind and somebody puts a thought, I believe that that doesn't happen on its own. I think it's an act of destiny. And I look back and I say, you know, whatever happens in life, there's an old saying that says, Jo hota hai, theek hota hai. Everything happens for a good reason. I can say with conviction what happened many years ago was the best thing that happened to me. And it took me through a beautiful, fulfilling journey.
So, how has the journey been so far?
I would say outstanding. I mean, it's been a real journey. It's fulfilling is an understatement. Connecting with masses and providing world-class healthcare right at their doorstep, sharing their pain and their joy, and I think opening up because our first hospital is in Mathura and it's a tier 3, and having 22 specialities there. And world-class technologies, the journey is remarkable. Yes.
So, how many hospitals do you have?
We have 5 currently. 2 we commissioned this year. We have a hospital in Mathura. We have a hospital in Agra. Women's at Delhi. We have an O&M agreement with them, and we run a center at Lajpat Nagar with the women's. But we commission our Gurgaon facility in later part of this year. It's a 600-bedded facility, of which we will be commissioning 455 beds. And in about 2 months, we commissioned in Ashok Vihar another facility, which is roughly 175 beds.
So, what are the future plans beyond that?
You see, I've come back to Delhi to only strengthen and grow my teams. I would have loved to just carry on to Banaras because it's about consolidating Uttar Pradesh, 260 million people that you want to serve. These are large communities and that's where they really need healthcare. You needed to come back to Gurgaon, come back to NCR, come back to build teams, build an economic foundation. And that's what I've come to do. Come back, build that, and then start Banaras and Amritsar, which is where I come from.
Oh, lovely.
And Amritsar is something I started much earlier, but Badri would have it as other way. From Alaknanda, he sent me straight to the Yamuna instead of Amritsar because I wanted to go home. I wanted to go where my parents were. It was not meant to be. We broke ground in Amritsar. We started work. But then Gurgaon came up, and as a result, we ended up having to take up that. And of course, Mathura came up before that. So, yes, and then, of course, Nagpur. So, it's North India and Central India, which is our focus area. And at the end of this, and once we commission all the other hospitals, whether it's Banaras and Nagpur and Amritsar, we would be 3,600 beds. We are currently 1,200 beds by the end of this year.
That sounds so exciting.
Yes.
So, how do you see the future of the healthcare industry in India, considering the current challenges?
I think we are a fragmented community. We are really fragmented, and I think we need to come back come together as a community. The future of healthcare is great. I think we have to look at the way healthcare moves. We need to look at the way healthcare, you know, we work in silos. We assess things in silos. We don't look at what we need as a holistic need for the country. Our policies are fragmented. And I think, yes, there are challenges as far as recent announcements by the governments or in terms of pricing. But, you know, when it comes to dealing with what we've done in Mathura, We are already 30 to 40% lower than Delhi NCR. So when I look at the pricing mechanism that comes in, the question I ask myself, well, it didn't really affect us. So it's okay because the volumes are there. You need 10,000 names in this country before you can even look at saturation. There is no saturation. The demand supply is so huge. 80% of your hospitals are sitting in Delhi, in the NCRs or in metros, and 20% of the rest are in the communities that we serve, whilst the population is all sitting out there. So there's a mismatch. So there are no, I don't think there are challenges. I think it's a mindset we need to come together and really address this holistically.
And what is your opinion on the impact on the healthcare industry by the upcoming poll results?
None at all. People are going to fall sick whichever party is in power. It really doesn't make a difference.
All right. And how do you think that the BW healthcare community can contribute to facilitate healthcare trade?
Hugely. What do you have? What is it that you don't have? And at least what I've seen as far as regions are concerned, or as far as the investor communities are concerned, where business world has a prominent role to play, is to understand where is the need for growth. Is to spread awareness both amongst the communities and amongst, even for that matter, on policy. Why is it that when doctors have cases that go wrong and end up in consumer courts, and we have the breaking news phenomena, sorry to say that, but why is it that we don't understand that we need appealates today? Doctors are people there to save lives. You need to make it easier for them to come to a certain platform where they can present their case if something has gone wrong. Don't make them run from one case, from one day to the other in different consumer courts, in a consumer court where a matter can take almost 10 years to come up. That's one part of it. I think the other part of it is that we need to come, business world can spread awareness that these are the things that we need to do on pricing, in the way we manage pricing, or in fact, that we need to look at what is today. If I look at the new generation of doctors coming in, let me tell you, kids don't want to become doctors anymore. And that's probably what worries me about healthcare.
And one last question I want to ask you is that how does your father feel about the work that you're doing, since you mentioned him in the beginning?
My father never got a chance to see this. When I became a consultant for the corporates, he was against this because he said this was not your journey. He passed away in 2003. And I now look back and I think this was really the journey he talked about. He was a great astrologer, so maybe that's what he meant. And I'm sure he's happy. I'm sure he's very happy.